Hello and a very warm welcome to today's LinkedIn Live with Lynnaire. I'm your host, Lynnaire Johnston. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about all matters video. Video for LinkedIn and live streaming exactly like this here on LinkedIn. And we have a special guest who is joining us again. I think it's her third appearance on one of our LinkedIn Lives, Gillian Whitney, all the way from Las Vegas. Before we get underway though, let me just mention a couple of things to you. Our team, Cher Ferguson and Gillian Moore, are in our audience, and if you have any issues, they're the ones who will be answering questions, putting up links for us, and generally keeping the comment section all going for us. Now, if you have questions for Gillian, please do pop them in the comments and we will come up with those at the end of our discussion because we've got a lot to get through today. In fact, we're going to be talking about a number of different things to do with LinkedIn video and live streaming, why it's so important, how it's changed, the barriers that there are to it, why it's so difficult for us, video on profiles and content, live streaming, repurposing, the tech that we need, and different areas around the mistakes that a lot of us make. So, a lot to talk about today, and I'm so pleased to welcome back our favorite live stream strategist and coach who makes LinkedIn live and recorded videos easy peasy, Gillian Whitney. Now, Gillian works with B2B professionals from around the world to leverage video to be discovered, noticed, and also to be recognized and visible. Gillian, it's so lovely to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us again.
I'm excited to be here. And I love these worldwide chit chats where it's evening for me and it's 6 o'clock at night here in Las Vegas. And for you, it's get up in the morning time still, right?
Just about. It's 1 in the afternoon, which is a really kind of civilized time. Civilized time to have a LinkedIn Live. So fabulous to have you back, fresh from your keynote presentation at Uplift Live in Birmingham in March. And I rewatched that presentation last night. You just blew me away. It was really amazing. You did a fabulous, fabulous job of that. And I wanted to talk to you about a few things that came up in that. And of course, some of the things that I've just talked about. Now, when I first began looking at video, I realized basically that I had to get my act together. My go-to person for finding out how to do things was always you, because you make it easy peasy. You've helped me on a number of occasions to overcome all kinds of different issues that I've had, technical, the ones that are in my head, because I think that there are a lot of different reasons that people don't want to do video. You know, when people come to us, Gillian, to have a profile makeover, I say to them often, well, what have you got in the way of video that you can put on your profile that we can use to really showcase your skills? And they just say, oh, no, I don't do video. It's really very sort of, oh, no, I couldn't possibly, as if they never want to touch it. And I don't think that in 2024 that's understandable anymore. Understandable is the wrong word. I don't think people really realize the importance of it. So let's start with that. Why is video so important to master for everybody who wants to leverage LinkedIn for their professional businesses?
Well, probably the easy answer is video gets you seen and noticed and visible. And we talked that we're talking about visibility today. And unfortunately, you could have the best product, the best service, you could be the best candidate for a job, whatever it is that you're trying to succeed at. And if people don't know you exist, you're like the best kept secret. So video is that way to get in front of people who might not even be aware you exist, because people can't buy from you. They can't work with you. They can't hire you if they don't know you exist. So video is the thing. That's why I started doing video. I didn't want to do it either. I was kicking and screaming coming to video. I'm an introvert. People don't believe me, but it's true. And I was not born in with a cell phone in my hand. I was not that person. So it was awkward and it was uncomfortable. But I recognized that even though I love to write, writing text posts, an odd graphic here and there, I was still invisible and I didn't want to be visible. So I didn't want to be invisible. I wanted to be visible. Video will help leapfrog you to that top of the visibility scale so that people go, oh yeah, I've seen her around. I see what she has to say. It's the closest thing to meeting people in real life at a networking event. So if you switch and have that mindset that this just allows people to either feel attracted to working with you, getting to know you a bit more, or else they say, you know what, you're not my cup of tea. And that's okay, because let them go find the people that they're better to work with and just attract the people who are the right clients for you.
I agree. Finding the right audience, your right tribe is important. And I think that video is a great way to do that. I use it in my posts, of course. I use it on my profile. And of course, here we're live streaming as well. And I know that you are one of the early adopters of live streaming, and I do want to come back to that. But first, I want you to mention your book, because you've written a book about how to be comfortable on video. Fabulous. Now read the title first, so we've got that and people can go and get it on Amazon.
Okay, so it's How to Feel More Comfortable on Camera. Essentially, it's available on Amazon. You can get it as an ebook, so you can get it as just a Kindle book, or you can get it as a printed book and it'll just get mailed to you from Amazon. And essentially, it's just my top tips of how to get over yourself. How, we all struggle with video and we think, it's just me. Everybody else can do this. No, they can't. We all struggle with video, and there's so many things that we can do to get comfortable in front of the camera. So the book is a short read. You can pick it up and I think you read it in 2 hours and you're done. But it just goes through and gives you all my best tips of just how to get that anxiety out of there and be more comfortable.
Which is exactly what we all need to do. But for someone who's been through this process, I have to say it takes time, Gillian. It takes practice and it takes time. And the more you do it, the better you become at it, and the easier you are with it, because you're more familiar with it. Now, when I began to think about video, my main problem was in my head. I kind of felt, well, who's going to want to listen to me or look at me? I have what is called a face for radio, and so fortunately I have a voice for radio too, because I began my career in radio. And so you've got to get over those kind of barriers, that people don't want to see you, that people don't want to hear what you have to say, because you know what, it turns out to be absolutely nonsense. They do actually want to hear you and see what you have to say. And I think that that's something that is a hard thing for people, particularly older people, to get over. What's your tip for getting your head around that one?
That people are not putting you under the microscope that you think they are. They're not sitting there going, oh, she's got a lot of wrinkles and look at her hair and look at this. People are not doing that. They are actually selfish and thinking about themselves. They're looking at your videos and saying, is Lynnaire got some tips for me that's going to help today? Nobody is sitting there and really doing that look of each and everything. That is all in our head. And the thing is, we have to shift our focus off of ourselves, because they're not there to just be listening to you. They're there because they're either trying to figure out, are you somebody I want to work with? Can you teach me something? Can you entertain me? There's many different things that people come to a video for based upon what their particular needs are. And so if you're just genuine and authentic about who you are, you're not putting on any airs, you're just communicating the message you wish to communicate, then people will either they'll be attracted or they'll be repelled. And that's okay. That is completely okay. So the best thing is just think of the audience and what is my message? What am I trying to do? And always when you're looking at the camera, because that's the hardest thing about video, it's like, ooh, we're looking at the nameless, faceless camera. Well, first of all, give him a name. My name of my camera is Lenny the lens. He's got a little happy face on his little feet. And when I look at Lenny the lens, I envision the person on the other side of the camera. I do that for presentations. When I was at Uplift Live, before Uplift Live, I did what you say for video. You practice, practice, practice. I couldn't have just got up on the stage and said, well, here we go. Here's my presentation. No, I set that presentation for months. Then I practiced. I practiced alone. Then I practiced with a friend. So Tina Jarvett and I, worldwide, across the world, she's in Belgium, I'm in Las Vegas. We would get on Zoom and it'd be her turn and she'd practice, and then my turn and I'd practice. And then the day of the presentation, Tina was in the audience and I gave my presentation to Tina and everyone else in the room, and she did the same. So, having that friendly eyes, that friendly face in a crowd, you can do the same thing on video by just making a little happy face and putting it at the feet of your webcam.
Lenny, I love that idea, giving your camera a name. I wanted to ask you about where you thought on LinkedIn profiles we can best use video, because there have been some changes around this since you and I were last together, Gillian. And one of them, of course, is the demise of the profile video, which in my view is a terrible shame. So what areas of our profiles do you see that video can best be used for?
Well, first of all, you can put media in your section under all your different experiences. So if one of your experiences, your company, go ahead and put media in there. It can be a short clip. It has to live somewhere else for that to happen. So you want to have it on Vimeo. That is always my recommended platform in a business world, is that if you can put something on Vimeo, you can really control the way that it looks, and they're not going to get served up cat videos at the end of a Vimeo. You own it. It's your platform, and you have to set it up. So I actually like to have my most serious videos on Vimeo. But you could also have a LinkedIn Live on there. You could have a YouTube on there as well. So that media section on your profile in under your experiences is one good place. Another place is your featured section. So if you've done a video and you post it, then you might want to just add it to your featured section. It's so easy. You just click a button and it's done. And then sort where in your featured section you want it to go. Maybe it should be the very, very first thing that people see so that they can get that introduction to you. And then I would also go one step further. I'm a huge fan of articles, not just LinkedIn newsletters. I have a LinkedIn newsletter, but I also take advantage of articles because until they're ripped out, I'm going to use them full force. And the reason why I like articles is they're very forgiving in terms of you can continually update them. So if maybe you make an article, getting to know Lynnaire. You could make an article that's like maybe 3 short videos. You could have just like a little blah, 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 here's what I do, here's who I work with, blah, blah, blah. And then you could say, and here's a little something about me, that what I do in my personal time. And maybe that's where you put your gardening videos in, because that gets us to know Lynnaire the person, not just Lynnaire the businesswoman, but Lynnaire the human being. And maybe the third one, maybe it's a reel of like your guest appearances or something like that. So here would be 3 different choices. You could have a little bit of text because it's an article. So you could have a little bit of text. You could embed those videos so that nobody clicks off to YouTube, nobody clicks off to Vimeo. They just watch them within the article. But then maybe about 2 months later, you have a better gardening video. And you're like, okay, that first one was a little bit silly and the hose was going everywhere. I want a better one. So now you can take the old one out and put the new one in. So this is something that constantly could be revised and update. How about that for an idea?
I think that's a great idea, and we have not done that in quite the way that you suggest. And we do it in our newsletters. I've started putting video. I've copied your idea because you do that so well, and I've started to put videos in our newsletters, but I hadn't thought of doing separate articles that you could update. Now, a very good friend of yours and mine, Kevin D. Turner, of course, is the very best example of this, because with his new features newsletter, he is constantly updating that, and it changes just, I was going to say almost daily. Sometimes it feels like it's daily, doesn't it?
Hourly.
It's crazy. But he's a very good example of how you can continue to update one article, although he does describe that as a newsletter, but they both on the same format, on the same platform in that sense. So you could do it as an article or as a newsletter, whichever suited you. But I love that idea, and so my brain is going fizz, fizz, fizz about how we might actually be able to use that. Now, going back to your profile, one thing I did see Mark Williams do on his profile, I don't know if he still has it. He, of course, is our friend and the host of the Informed podcast. He has videos on each of his roles in his experience section, like you mentioned, and each one deals with a different kind of aspect of what he does. So I don't think he has anything else except the video in that section in terms of media, and it just makes you want to click on it and go, oh, well, I'll just have a quick look and see what this is all about. And he explains in those videos what he does, how he helps people, who he serves, that kind of thing. And I think that works extremely well. And we have been recently focusing on the services section of our profile. Now, this is, of course, moved back up to just underneath the About section, which has also moved back up to the top. And we've got a premium account, and so a lot more of what's in our services section displays on the front page. And so that's a really good place to be able to put videos, because you can put native videos in there, I have discovered. Whereas, of course, with what you were talking about, both media and in featured, they have to be hosted elsewhere unless they're already in posts. So the services section, I think, is something that I'm really pushing this hard at the moment. I'm not quite sure why. I just like the fact that it's sitting above featured, and it's got all those extra the visual content of it, the visual impact of it. But I do recognize that it is a premium feature, and so that just does tend to bring it back down a bit. All right. Anything else to do with profiles before we move on to videos and posting?
Probably just the last thing would be that nowadays, regardless of whether you're on the free plan of LinkedIn or a premium plan, you can sort which way, what you can sort what you want people to see. Do you want to see posts first? Do you want to see videos first? Do you want to see events first? So that's another thing. If you're really into videos, maybe you want videos as the number one thing that comes up. One thing that I would tell people to keep in mind is, when you look at your video tab and you see all the different videos that you've done, you begin to realize why it's really important to use a thumbnail for your videos. And that's something that when we go to upload a video, we don't really think too much about. We're like, yeah, and we're uploading, but you can't ever go back and change it, which is very, very unfortunate. It would be, that's the one nice thing about YouTube. You're like, I hate that thumbnail. Well, okay, I can get rid of it and do a new one in Canva and you're good to go. But with LinkedIn, it's not very forgiving. So that is why you have to think about, do I want to choose a frame that will be, that number one image? And even if you just take the very first frame of your video where you're smiling, you look nice, as opposed to, something like that, keep that in mind, because that will all show up in that video tab.
I made that mistake once too often, Gillian, and really regretted it. So I absolutely am on board with that. And it's, once you get into the habit of it, it's not very difficult to do. It's just a matter of remembering it. And also, when you are posting a video on LinkedIn, you get a prompt. It says upload thumbnail. And so at that point, if you've decided, I need to go back and grab one, you've still got time to do that. So I think that's really that's very useful. So tell us a bit about posting on video. the other way around, video posting, because there've been changes in that as well in terms of how we are best to do those. Originally, I did all mine in square format because that was deemed to be the best way to do it, but that's changed now, hasn't it? And it's not anymore the best way to do it.
You've got it. It has changed, and sometimes we just have to roll with it. So the old traditional way of doing a square video, where you take a 16:9 in the middle and you kind of make a video sandwich with the title at the top, that just doesn't do very well right now. So right now, the thing is optimize for mobile. You want to do the vertical videos as much as possible. So I kind of do two formats now. So 16:9 is your traditional video, like a LinkedIn Live. So every LinkedIn Live is usually 16:9. You can do vertical ones now, but I've only done one so far. But with actual video, if you're going to create a video or you're going to repurpose a live and turn it into a vertical video, turn it into a short form video, go for vertical. It's just the number one thing, because you look and the majority of people are scrolling through their phone. And, think about somebody standing in a bank. They might just, okay, I'm just standing here in the waiting line in the bank. And it's like, okay, I'll watch this little video because it's only 30 seconds or it's only 90 seconds, something like that. So the more that it's vertical and those people can access on the phone, much better.
Talking about standing in the line at a bank, which you're lucky to still be able to do. We don't really have too many banks left in New Zealand where you can go in person. If you're standing in line anywhere really and decide to watch a video, what's the other thing that's going to be the most important thing for you to be able to have to be able to watch it?
Captions. So captions is still the number one thing. I have to say that LinkedIn is improving on their auto-generated captions. If I had a wish list for LinkedIn, if they're listening, I hope they're listening, I would say, please allow us to set it as default off if we don't choose to use LinkedIn's captions. And so on the one hand, I was really, really happy when this first came out. It was a really good thing because too many people were not captioning their videos, which is just, quite frankly, it's rude because we have so many people who are deaf. They rely on those captions. So we're excluding people. So we don't even want to do that. But number one, like you just said, when you're in a place like at the bank or you're the doctor's office, or God forbid, you're in bed at night and you want to be watching a LinkedIn video and your spouse is like, oh, for gosh sakes, come, would you go to sleep? You can do it with the captions off. So even when I send, like today is John Asperian's birthday, and I sent him a video last night, I captioned it. I don't have to caption it for John. He can hear it, but I don't know where John's going to listen to it. So maybe he's going to listen to it at 7 o'clock in the morning and be at the bank. So not that you'd be at the bank at 7 o'clock in the morning, but you know what I mean? If you were sitting somewhere and it's not appropriate, it's just a kind thing to do. So the extra thing that I would say about LinkedIn's auto captions is, like you said before, when you're uploading a video, have a checklist for yourself. I want that thumbnail, so have that ready to go. And then always turn the captions off because it's default on, and you don't want captions if you've already captioned, because then you got double captions and people are like, it hurts my brain to watch your video, and they'll just scroll on past.
I wanted to ask you about a couple of things that came out of Richard van der Blom's algorithm report in February, which talk about video. He talked about video itself for posting and also live streaming. And what he's saying, that video posts outperform other formats for engagement, Gillian. And I think that that is really interesting. Even though they only make up 8% of posts, they actually do very well in outperforming other formats for engagement. Now, of course, since late or mid to late last year, we've really been trying to focus, most of us who are on LinkedIn all the time, focusing away from impressions and reach and organic kind of metrics, the vanity metrics, and really moving towards engagement, because that's what LinkedIn says is what is the really important thing. And frankly, that is the most important thing to us personally, is who's actually commenting on our post, what they're saying, how can we start a conversation and keep things moving. And so it's really interesting for me to hear that video is outperforming other formats. And I sense real opportunity here. If only 8% of posts are video, then there's a big disconnect, isn't there, between what we can actually expect and what's really happening. So would you agree that perhaps doing more video posts is a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. I don't believe in doing 90 days of video and you do a video every single day, because I get sick of watching all your videos. So it's like you don't want too much, So, but I think if you could take a content strategy of saying, I just want to do one video a week, pick your day and make a content appointment that you are going to show up and you're going to do that. That's the same mindset we do with a LinkedIn Live. You and I decided on this live several weeks ago. I think I was abroad when we set the date. And it's like, I put it in the calendar and I made it a priority that I would show up here. And that's what we do, whether we're a guest on a live or we're hosting our own live. Why not take that same attitude? And that will stop the procrastination, and just say, Thursday is my video day. And don't wait till Wednesday to prepare it. Prepare it on Friday. Begin to say, what am I going to do a video about next week? One idea. Just do one idea, one thing. Maybe you might want to talk about, StreamYard just got bought by a new company. What does that mean? And I could do a video about that. So I might say, okay, what's my take on this? What do I want to say about this? I could write a script. I could make an outline. I could decide what my video's about, and then decide when am I going to record my videos. So one of the things I like to do is I like to utilize the time that I look good. So if I do lives every Tuesday, it just makes sense. My hair's done, my makeup's on, ring light set up, everything's set up. Why don't I just stay on after the live and make another video? That's an easy peasy thing to do. I posted a video yesterday, which is exactly what I did on Tuesday. After my live, I made a video about this upcoming live because, hey, everything was all set up, ready to go.
And guess what? After our lives over today, I'm going to be learning from what you've just said and doing my video that I've got to get organized for tomorrow. I have been doing videos, but not much in advance. So I do a video around my garden and LinkedIn. I always like to connect them at the weekend. And I've got to the point where if I don't do a gardening video at the weekend, I feel like I'm letting people down, which is an interesting take on it. So I really like to, weather permitting, do that. But the point is sometimes the weather isn't any good at the weekends when I want to record it. So I need to be doing exactly what you say and preparing them during the week. I also do a weekly roundup for members of my Linkability community, and that can sometimes be quite a little lengthy one depending on how busy LinkedIn has been during the week and how controversial things are. And I tend to do those almost instantly. So I'll do them on a Friday and then put them up on a Friday afternoon because it is an end of the week thing. But I really like your message that in fact it is ideal to be doing them in advance and to have one idea, one simple idea per video. Now, tell me what you think about the length of videos for posting. How long should they be ideally on LinkedIn?
I used to say 2 minutes. Then I went to 90 seconds and now I go for a minute. That's what I'm thinking of. So I look at it and say, could I have this as a YouTube short? Because that actually makes sense. Why don't I repurpose this as a YouTube short? Because it goes on LinkedIn and after, 48 hours, 72 hours, it's kind of buried in the news feed. So unless I put it on my featured section or somebody happens to find it, it's not going to be seen. So I think if you want to get your best bang for your marketing buck, try and create like a YouTube short that you post on LinkedIn first, but then maybe a couple days later, a week later, then you post it on YouTube as well. If you're on other social channels, you can do the same. So that would be my suggestion. Make it a little bit under a minute. So, aim for that 59 seconds. That's what I recommend these days. And if you can go shorter, go shorter. 30 seconds is good too. And you're better off to, in addition, batch your videos. So for instance, when you're out gardening, you might say, oh my goodness, this was a beautiful day. It was so sunny. Well, go make 5 videos, 5 short videos. And then if you're so inclined, you could say, well, maybe I'll change my shirt just to change it up. Or you can just say, well, no, this is what I always wear when I'm gardening. I always wear this flowered shirt and an apron and a hat. And that's my uniform for doing gardening videos. So it doesn't matter so now you've got a bank of 4 extra videos for the weekend when it's raining, and you just go, oh, okay, well, if I'm out there and I want to do a video, I can always add a new one. But now I've got this like little content library that I can pull from at any time. But also too, secret tip, you can go back and repost a video you did ages ago, because probably people don't remember it, didn't necessarily see it. So we can repurpose our videos without doing anything. Just put them up there again.
That's a clever idea. Although I have discovered, because they all sit in the activities section of our profiles, as you've already mentioned, that my earlier ones are not ones I would want anyone to see again, Gillian. And I think that's the point, isn't it, about doing video regularly, is you get better at it.
Yes.
And the mistakes that you make, or the things that you might think are mistakes, you do tend to iron out over time. One of my favorite tricks is I start every sentence with now when I'm doing a video. I don't tend to do that, I don't think, when I'm doing LinkedIn Lives, but I start with now. So now this, it's my kind of like verbalized pause in between my sentences. And I was really intrigued to realize that I had unwittingly copied that from the UK's best known gardener, Monty Don, who starts almost every sentence with now. So now I feel I'm in good company. And also the things that you think are mistakes or problems, probably other people don't. And that comes back to that perfectionism again, doesn't it? Done is better than perfect. And one of the things I loved about your Uplift Live presentation was that you had a photo of all the different takes that you might have done on one video on your phone. And your point being that you might do take after take after take and it never be perfect. But if you go to a live stream, all your problems are solved, which is a neat segue into live streaming. Tell us why live streaming like this is your preferred way to do video, which I imagine is the case.
Because you can't go back. You can't go back. We just have to trust and move forward with live. If I stumble and I say the wrong word, it doesn't matter. I just keep moving forward. So it's actually impossible to be perfect on a live. You can't do it. I can't do it. I had a power blackout last night at 10 o'clock at night. Well, you know what? If I was going live, there would be nothing I could do to recover it. I would have just been like, that's, that's what happens. So, crazy things. We've all had crazy things that have happened on our lives, but you can't edit. So when you have that video montage on your phone of like your 80 takes, and I laugh because sometimes you just get the top of your head. It just seems like you plummet down this curve of like, okay, this is just getting ridiculous. And I was amazed when I gave my speech at Uplift Live and I showed that picture and people just went, oh my gosh, me too. And I didn't realize I hit such a nerve because, to be honest with you, I thought it's just me. It wasn't. Everybody else has that silly montage and it's like 30 takes for one 10-second video. And to be honest with you, maybe that's why the profile video was such a hated thing. And, enough that it was so unpopular, LinkedIn pulled it. Who knows why LinkedIn pulled it? Maybe their servers couldn't handle it. So I don't profess to understand anything about LinkedIn in terms of why they make their decisions. But maybe what it was that so many people felt it had to be perfect, and it can't be. So lives are imperfect action. You hit that go live button, you navigate wherever this boat is going to sail, you handle the choppy waters, you handle the smooth sailing, and you come out the other side and you just go somewhere in there, I think, with some really good points. And I've never done a live, Lynnaire, where I said, oh gosh, why did I bother? There's always something that I can find as a redeeming moment.
And I love the story you told about the very first LinkedIn Live that you did, that you had no one in the audience. Well, we've had a few where there's really only been the odd person too. But my take on that particular one is that it's good practice anyway.
Yes.
And it allows you to repurpose some content that you might otherwise have gone, well, all right, so nobody came to the live. What am I going to do with it now? But repurposing from a live, I think, is a really good use of everybody's time and effort, because it takes effort and time to put together a live, as you and I both know. And so repurposing is something I think is really important. Tell me how you see repurposing and the kind of ways that we can do that. How can we repurpose what we're talking about today?
Well, first of all, you get the video and you get a transcript of the video. So there's many tools that you can use: Otter AI, Temi. I think even StreamYard now has a feature where you can download a transcript. You have to be at a higher level, but there's many, many different programs that you can use to get a transcript of your live. So that's the first thing you want to go with. And nowadays we live in the age of AI, where I love to use Otter AI, and I'll ask Otter some questions and I'll say, what was the summary? What did we talk about? What were the key points? Because I don't necessarily want to go back and read through the whole transcript, but it can pull out the key points so that now I can take that and say, maybe I can turn this into a LinkedIn article or a blog post for my website. So that is a possibility. Of course, with me, I take every one of my LinkedIn lives, I suck out the audio, and then I turn it into a podcast, because there are some people, they're not going to watch a video. They want to hear something on the go. I've got 5 platforms. It's like Amazon, iTunes, Google Podcasts, all these different places where if people wanted to just hear the interview, they can hear the audio portion. So there's 2 things. And then the third thing is short form videos. So you pick out, oh, that was a great story where I was talking about, yada, yada, yada. And then the cat came in and he did this and he did that. And just say, that was a great point, a great little story. Why don't I just pull that out and make that its own little short form video? One idea again. You just always want to go with that one idea. So many, many different things. You could take some just really good soundbite quotes and then make a graphic post that has that. Audiograms is another thing, taking a portion of the audio and then creating a little video out of that. There are so many free tools you can use to do things like that. So that's just a couple of ideas. And then, quite frankly, books is sort of the golden, treasure trove of what you can do the most. I wrote a different book, which was how to use video in your job search. And working with job search candidates that's not my normal client, but I was on several LinkedIn Live appearances with career coaches and, all HR people, all that realm. And I thought, I have some really good stuff where I answered all these great questions. So I took every single live, I think it was maybe about 6 of them, and then I pulled out the key points from each of my appearances. And then I made a book that was about using video in your job search. So that was repurposed content, but it was mine, and I just put it in a different structure.
we've done that with several of our previous LinkedIn Lives, turned them into ebooks and then made them available from my profile for free for people to be able to read. Because one of the things that I really like about LinkedIn is that there are so many different formats of content that we can offer people and that they can choose to consume by, right? So video, so audio, and reading, of course, because you and I are great readers.
Yes.
There are a lot of different ways I think that we can repurpose our content, but sometimes we just don't do it. But here is a really good use, I think, of AI. We have found that our editing program of choice, which happens to be Capwing, now offers, I think, up to 30 different shorts from each of our long form LinkedIn Lives or webinars, whatever we're doing. And I think that there is a role for AI in doing this kind of thing. And I'm really interested in your ideas about how AI can help us rather than get in the way of the process.
Well, I kind of take the Kevin D. Turner approach to using AI. Use it as a tool. It's, it can let it work for you. So I use Kepwing as well. I like the fact that it can, take one live and it can suggest all sorts of different clips. But what I like about Capwing is I'm still in control and I can say, yeah, but you know what? I needed those 5 words beforehand because otherwise you don't understand the context of this. So I can back it up and say, okay, let's actually have the clip start here. And that stuff in the middle, well, that kind of meandered. So I can, so I can use it as a guide and I can say, okay, I just want to make some tweaks. And I like that as opposed to, there's another program a lot of people are embracing called Opus Clips. And I checked out Opus Clips and I didn't like it because it made the pictures wonky and it put people too far forward. It wasn't as easy and intuitive to edit. And the other thing I like about Kapwing is you can actually set it to say, leave the person centered in the photograph, in the image of the video, so that if I want to now take a 16:9 clip and turn it into a 9:16, a vertical video, it's very good about keeping the people centered so that you're not just seeing half of my head. So I really like Kapwing. I think they're doing a great job. So I'm glad you're using it.
Yeah, and I like it because I can understand it. It's taken me a bit, but I can pretty much get there now because I found really that one of the, one of the barriers for me has been the technology side of it. And I'm not a natural technology person. When I was young, the internet hadn't been invented. And so consequently, it's a little harder for me. My brain's not wired that way. And I have to be dragged kicking and screaming into trying new things like this. But I've discovered now that I feel comfortable with my camera on my phone and with Capwing, that the process has become a lot easier. And once I've got the technology side of it sorted out, it means then that I can focus on what I'm trying to say, because there was a lot of moving parts when it comes to a video. As you know, there's what you're going to say, there's how you look, what your backdrop looks like, the sound, the quality of your microphone, the lighting, all of those kind of things. And there's a lot to think about. So the easier you can make it on yourself, the better, I think. But a lot of people, I believe, think that you have to have a lot of fancy gear to be able to do it. And you don't, do you? I've seen a photo of your setup and it's not like a studio, am I right?
Absolutely. It's, I have a bare bones laptop because I'm digital. And I went to England for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I continued to do lives. And I had one suitcase. So I'm dragging this one suitcase around. I didn't have a suitcase of just my live stream gear. It's like it had to go with my clothes and everything else. And I'm a typical person. I got to bring a lot of different clothes for 6 weeks. That's a long time to be away. So keeping your setup easy peasy makes so much sense. And yet people, they have this false impression that it's like, oh, if I have a stream deck and I have this and an audio mixer and this and that, well, then I'm like the big guys, I'm really serious about live streaming. Well, not if we don't need to all go that route. We need to go with what's best for us. So I like to use equipment I'm already familiar with. I told you before, when we were in the green room before we started, that I made the vertical video that I did yesterday using StreamYard. Why did I use StreamYard? Because I'm comfortable talking on StreamYard. I'm comfortable using my video camera and my webcam much more than picking up and using my phone. And one of the big things with me is when I use my phone to make a video, and I do use my phone, I have to now all of a sudden remember, where am I supposed to look? It's a different place because it's different on your phone than here. I don't have a Lenny. I don't have a Lenny on my phone. You know, he blows off and then he's gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I lost Lenny. So it's a different thing. So if you keep your process simple, keep your equipment simple, and have a process that you write out. Why do people think that they should remember, okay, producing my video, what do I need? I need my webcam. I need my ring light. I got to put my phone on do not disturb. I got to do that with my computer, et cetera, et cetera. Have a process of how you're going to, record your video. Have a process of how you're going to edit and polish your video. So if you use Kapwing, use Kapwing. Don't go off and say, oh, I'm going to use Wave Video and then I'm going to use Adobe Premiere. Why don't I use Adobe Premiere? Because I don't know how to use Adobe Premiere. So I just stick with the one I know. And if they get a new feature, I learn the new feature. But if you keep hopping to, oh, everybody's using this now. Oh, wait, everybody's using this now. You just get sucked in a trap. So have your record process, your edit and polish process, and then your upload to LinkedIn, because that's where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot a thumbnail. Oh, darn, I did the double captions. I forgot to write a post, all those different things, because they're all part of your process. Do not rely on your brain because it's overwhelming. We can't do it. So have those SOPs, standard operating procedures. That's the writer in me. The tech writer never goes away.
Well, for the price of admission, Gillian, I think that particular tip is worth it today, to have a process and to have checklists, because as you say, there are a lot of moving parts, and to be able to try and remember everything. And it's too late once your video has gone live and you've realized that you've forgotten something, or there was something that really was in your background that you hadn't realized. It just looked terrible, and you can't do anything about it once it's done and gone. You've got to start all over again, and who needs the grief, to be fair. Now, I'm just going to remind the audience that we have Gillian Whitney in the house today, and please do add in any questions that you want to ask Gillian, because she is a wealth of knowledge, my go-to person for all things to do with video, and she's just a jolly nice person as well. So please pop those into the comments, and we can ask Gillian those on your behalf. Now, I do want to ask you, Gillian, what about the mistakes that people make? What are the most common errors that people make with videos that really are just plain avoidable if they only thought about them in advance? Well, and I'm going to write these down. I'll probably do them all.
Okay. Well, I don't think you do them all. I really like your videos, Lynnaire. They're very human, and they humanize your brand, and they allow us to get to know, like, and trust you. And so I think you nailed it. You do very, very well. So the mistakes that I see other people do would be rambling. That's the number one thing, where they don't really have a plan. They turn on the camera and they're like, they're over here, over there, over there. So you really do need to have, okay, what is my one idea? And I tell people, if you can take it and put it on the back of a business card, because who does anything with business cards anymore? So we might as well find some use for them. So take any of your old business cards, because don't we all have a big box of them sitting somewhere in the house, and say, what's the one idea? What am I trying to get across in this video? What's my one message? And then have an outline. I love the magic of 3. So maybe I'm going to say 3 points that back up what I'm trying to say. And then that keeps you structured and organized. And I don't use a teleprompter. I don't use a script or anything like that, but I do like to have an outline of, okay, what am I going to talk about in this video? So that's another thing. Have a structure in place. And then I think the third thing is, audio is so important. And I know that with captions, you can say, oh, the captions are at the bottom of the screen. but it's really important to have good audio. So if you go outside and you take a video, well, if you're going to just use if you're using the phone and you're just going to have the audio that comes off your phone, which might work fine in the house, but you go outside, now you're battling wind. You might be battling birds. I remember seeing somebody's video and it was like the birds were like, ah, ah, ah. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's like a Hitchcock movie. So you have to be very aware of the sound. And that also adds in when people start doing music and they add music and it's like, okay, the music is so jazzy, I can't hear what you're saying. So I think audio, it's actually more important than the video part because people will forgive a blurry image. But if we can't really hear you and understand you, or you're speaking too fast, those are the kind of things. So that audio check. So that would probably be did I say 2 or 3? I don't remember. I think I Okay. Well, so those are the things that I see the most, or people are still doing videos that are just far too long. I saw somebody the other day and they did a 6-minute video. A 6-minute video on YouTube, that's awesome. A 6-minute LinkedIn Live, that's awesome. But for a video, it's just way too long, especially because most of our videos are brand awareness and they're people who don't necessarily know you. So the less we know you, the less we're able to invest our time to watch you. So get to the point, jump right in. Don't be, hi, I'm da 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 da. Don't go rambling at the beginning either. Just jump right in with a hook that it's like, has this ever happened to you? And it's like, oh, what's she talking about? Boom, then they're there.
I like questions too at the beginning of a video because I think then that they help with the structure. And if you've not answered that question that you've posed at the beginning inside a minute or a little after, then you need to have another think about what it is you're really trying to say. But I often find, when I'm recording videos, that some days it'll go really well and I'm just one take after one take and then I'm done. But on other days, I have to do multiple takes of the same video because I do exactly what you say. I ramble. And that's because I haven't thought through carefully enough what I really want to say, what my message is going to be. And nobody wants to listen to or watch long videos on LinkedIn. There's a lot of scrolling to do. There's a lot more to watch. So I think that keeping videos short is a very good idea. And one thing I wanted to ask you about was the new video feed that is being tested. So tell me a little about how you see that. It's been described as a TikTok-like feed and it will scroll down the middle of your phone generally, I think. And so I haven't really seen much. I haven't got the feature. I haven't seen anybody I'm connected to with it either, as far as I know. What do you know about it? And do you think it's a good idea? Is also a good question.
Well, I think, first of all, I don't have it, so I haven't seen it. So it's really hard to comment on it. Is it going to appeal to everyone? Probably not. It might appeal to some people. Some people just like videos. And so I understand LinkedIn's trying to stay relevant, trying to keep the younger audience. So I think it's probably one of those things that'll come out and people will go, wow. And then they're like, it's like, I think we'll go back to our old habits because I think for the most part, we like variety. So I personally wouldn't want to just watch videos. I like a slider, I like a document post. I get a lot out of those. I like reading a personal post. I like seeing pictures with people in them. So if you've been to a breakfast meeting somewhere and you posted the pictures of the people you met, I like that. It makes me feel good to see those happy faces. So I think we want a lot of different things. I don't know how well that's going to do, but if anything, I think what it's saying is that video is relevant. It's going to be more relevant, and we have to do whatever we can to not get left behind. And if anything, if you don't realize that your competitors are using video, that's the biggest motivator. Because if you look at your competitor and you say, I actually am better at doing this, but they're out there and they're blazing a trail with their videos. And you're just like, one day I'll do video. You can't afford to be in the back lane anymore. You have to push yourself. And procrastinating, if you think, because you talked about procrastinating with video. We know we should do video, so we don't need to convince people anymore. They're like, yeah, I get it. I'm just not doing it. Why are you not doing it? That is the number one thing. Examine that. Is it because the tech is an issue? Well, there's ways that you can get more comfortable with the tech. You can learn. Everything can be overcome. Even if you go, okay, I'm not comfortable, it makes me anxious. I feel anxiety. Well, there's ways that you can get over the fear. So whatever it is, there is ways to get over it. And just remember, you have to be willing to stink at doing video. You are not going to be good the first time. Just like my first LinkedIn Live, it was like, meh, but I did it and I kept showing up. It's the same thing with video. The other day I was scrolling in YouTube and I saw Jim Carrey, who's a comedian here in the United States and Canada. And I'm sure you've seen him in movies and stuff. And it had Jim Carrey's first guest appearance. I think it was like on Johnny Carson, if you remember the old Johnny Carson shows.
A while back.
And yeah, a long time ago. And I went, oh, well, that would be fun. So I clicked and I watched it and I went, oh my gosh, Jim Carrey was horrible. It was a terrible, terrible appearance. And it was just like, it was slow. His timing was slow. He still did his kind of goofy faces and he got better, but you could tell he was basically a newbie. And that is going to happen to all of us. So here's my extra tip for people. You need to think like a Toastmaster. And Toastmasters get better at public speaking by evaluation. We don't just go to Toastmasters and give a speech and everybody claps and you leave. You give a speech, and then the second part is now we're going to go through and evaluate you and tell you what you did right and what you could improve upon. And it's constructive criticism. I don't even like the word criticism. It's more like constructive feedback. You can do this for yourself. Every time you're on a live or you do a video, once it's up, go and look at your video, but make yourself a checklist so that you're not being this horrible critic. I should treat it as if you came to me, Lynnaire, and you said, Gillian, can you evaluate my video? Then I wouldn't just say, it was good or it was horrible. I would say, okay, well, let me go through it. Let's talk about how did you look? Did you look present? Did you make eye contact? I would have all these things that I could actually, on a scale of 1 to 10, where were you? And then I might say, okay, let's talk about how did you sound? Did you speak too fast? Did you speak too slow? Did you pause? Did you use appropriate language? That's all about how you sound. And then the last thing could be, what were my gestures? Did I use my hands? Were they too close to the screen? Should they been back here? Did I have purposeful gestures? 2 things I'm going to tell you. All these different things are a way that you could be objective and then evaluate yourself and learn to improve.
Well, I think that's a very good place to leave it, Gillian. It's very hard to think of anything else that you haven't talked about, suggested, or come up with in terms of great ideas. So I would just like you to remind us of the name of your podcast. And I just want to tell you this, that I often listen to it while I'm cooking dinner because it's such a nice, easy peasy thing to do. And I love your intro to it, by the way. So the name of your podcast is
LinkedIn Easy Peasy. And I just always talk with different people on LinkedIn about how they use LinkedIn, not necessarily always LinkedIn specialists, but people that are using LinkedIn and how we can all level up on LinkedIn. And I had the delight of having you as my guest in the audio version last summer, and it was an awesome episode. I love that one.
Yes, and one of the things I do love about the way that we all work together in our little LinkedIn group, if you like, is the way that we all help each other, talk with each other, and really co-collaborate, which I think just works extremely well. And I just love having you on our LinkedIn Lives, Gillian. It's just always an absolute pleasure. If you're not following Gillian, you need to do that. If you're not connecting with her, I'm sure she'd welcome it. If you sent a message to say that you had seen and heard her here today on our LinkedIn Live, I'm sure she would love to connect with you too. Special mention for John Lacey, who's been with us today. John is a video expert down under here he's in Australia actually, and thank you for all the comments that you've been putting into the comments, John. You've added considerably to the conversation and we really appreciate that. And Gillian, thank you for joining us from Las Vegas today, or somewhere else, you digital nomad you. Whereabouts are you today?
Today, I'm actually in Las Vegas and it's beautiful. It's sunny and gorgeous and just one of those days where you're like, pinch me, I live in Las Vegas. I love it.
Well, thank you for joining us from Las Vegas. It's just been an absolute pleasure to have you back with us again. And I have no doubt that we'll be repeating this in the next few months as things change video-wise on LinkedIn. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who has joined us live. We do hope you found Gillian's tips and ideas really, really useful. I'll be back next week with a LinkedIn audio event at the same time, 1 o'clock New Zealand time, 11 o'clock, and that will be Australian time, and in the early evening up in the United States. I hope you'll join us for that as well. So from Gillian and I, thank you very much indeed for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.